So workers' rights 101. To start off, well, like I said, this workshop is about the basics of the basics, right? This workshop isn't about how to effectively organize a union in your workplace. We're working on a much broader series, right? You can't really we could go over basics, but we really can't do justice to workplace organizing in an hour span. So that's going to be a whole other thing, probably a multi-series workshop that we're working on. But tonight's just about the basics of the basics, right? And so to start off, the first thing that workers need to understand is that as workers, you have rights in your workplace, and they're established by federal, state, and local level laws. These laws vary very, very broadly by location, right? Though there are federal locations that apply broadly. That said, while we, don't have the level of workers' rights that some other nations do, there is a baseline that apply to nearly all workers. So that's going to be one problem that we have to address in this workshop is that what workers' rights looks different in Arizona versus New York versus Illinois versus Texas, right? Versus Washington versus Montana. And so there's going to be a lot of specific details that are really location dependent and really situation dependent that we're not going to be, we can answer questions on them and try to suss it out. But overall, this is going to kind of be about that baseline. So that baseline includes, but is not limited to, freedom of association and the effective recognition of the right to collective bargaining, right? We're not going to get into organizing unions today, but you can, right? It is a protected right. Workers have the right to collectively organize in the United States, and that is with or without a union, which we'll get into a little bit later. The right to these baseline rights include the elimination of all forms of forced or compulsory labor. There's a little asterisk out there with the 13th Amendment that allows for slavery and forced labor, compulsory labor to continue within prison systems. But in general, in the general, economy, you have the right to not be forced to work. The effective abolition of child labor, again, right? We're seeing we've recently seen states passing new laws that allow younger and younger kids to work. We do not have, top of the line protections in this sphere, but there are protections. The elimination of discrimination in respect to employment and occupation, and then a safe and healthy work environment. And so while we do have these baselines, right, we can put an asterisk for every single one. There are things that we can talk about with every single one where we either aren't actually receiving full protections or we aren't seeing enforcement, right? It may be the law that you can't be discriminated against, or it may be the law that you have a safe and healthy working environment, but that doesn't actually mean that you have that on the ground.